So when I am doing this, just so all you know, this is going to be coming out on Friday at 12 o'clock. At the time I am doing this, it is 12:15 on the 4th. So we are still obviously on polling day when I'm filming this. But of course, I have a video schedule. This is just how I like to do things. And I thought, what can we do? What can we talk about, today? I know a lot of people will be celebrating. Hopefully we'll be as well tomorrow, But I wanted to sort of talk about this because I thought this was actually kind of an interesting almost admission from James Minbot here. He writes in the Guardian today about how he never thought he'd be making the case for rearmament. And that is, of course, because of a potential looming Trump presidency. And my real response to people like George Minbot, to a lot of people on the left, has always been pretty much traditionally, well, duh, some of us have been talking about this for months, for almost a year, to say that, hey, look, we need to be making the case for, rearmament. And we need to be making the left-wing case for rearmament as well. God, I was on God, when was it? I was on Sunday. I was on the Sunday brunch and I was making this case. And I said, maybe it doesn't need to be 2%, maybe it needs to be 4%, because we need to rebuild all of our capability and the industrial ability to be able to sort of churn out the amount of stuff we would need to potentially fight a conventional sort of war. And we do need a lot of rearmament, not only just a case of just the amount of ammunition shells that we would need. We're seeing that right now being carried out in the Ukraine war. How many artillery shells are being fired by both sides? This is why Ukraine is constantly reiterating the call of, we need more artillery shells. We need more shells, constantly, saying that again and again and again. So rearmament does really sort of need to be, I think, on the agenda. We mustn't be scared of talking about this. We must not, just because you are on the left, you should not be scared of talking about this. You should be prepared to be sort of engage with this argument, engage in this discussion. Because as George Minbot rightly points out, as I've been saying, what if Trump wins? Because all of a sudden, it will be on Europe to start supplying Ukraine. And if that happens, we've got a lot, and I mean a lot of catching up to do. A lot of catching up to do in this case. But as always, before we get more, of course, talking about into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. There is the Pony Club as well down below. We are entering the 100th Pony Club episode. It's bizarre. I never thought we'd go that high, but hey, here we are. So it was really, really good to sort of, celebrate that achievement. So thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel that way. And of course, you can always help support it by just clicking the like and the share button as well. And of course, leave a comment down below too. So rearmaments. One of the biggest left-wing, arguments against this, of course, is, if we want to rearm, that means we have to put all this money into weapons companies. And you're like, well, yes. What do you think we have to do to, in order to be able to do that? And there are some people on the left who will say, "Oh no, what we need to do is we need to make a nationalized, you know, sort of company." Bear in mind, we did this during World War One. Most of the chemical companies that are around today, like the 6 big UK chemical companies, were created in the First World War because of the UK's lack of chemical industries that existed prior to the war. You know, Lloyd George, the armament minister, recognized that and built those companies. And the companies that were built then still exist today in the UK. So it is not beyond the realms of possibility. That is something that we could do. That is something we could absolutely do. Don't get me wrong. But when you've got potentially, and this is the opportunity here that really does lie before us. If you've got Donald, let's say that George Minbot's fears come true, that Trump wins. There is a massive, massive military industrial complex in America that we could now potentially start wooing over to Europe, not just here in the UK, but the rest of Europe as well. This is another reason why the UK and the EU signing defense agreements and defense compacts and saying how we're going to sort of help and supply Ukraine is really, really important. It is a discussion that both the UK and the EU absolutely need to have, especially if the possibility could be a Trump win. That absolutely needs to happen. So that is something that could certainly be done. You know, as well as, you know, maybe we do make a nationalized you know, arms company in the UK. It is possible. We could do it. But that's in itself going to take a lot of investment. Wooing them already to the UK again might itself take a lot of money, but you could bring over businesses, get them in the north because the north has a very, very big population that has manufacturing skills that are just not being used, and a population that can be trained in those manufacturing skills. So you've got the workforce, you've got the necessary you know, land, etc., almost ready to go. And again, whether you do this by wooing arms companies or whether you go and you create a, like I say, a nationalized British arms company, etc., you know, those are two ways that you could do it. Either way, maybe we should pursue both. You know, if we need to really ramp up our arms production, which again, George Minbot does make the case for, and I would say, yes, absolutely, we need to do that, then absolutely that is something that we should do, but we should also work with our European partners as well in order to do this as well. We need to really recognize the huge strategic importance that that does come with. And that means especially recognizing the importance of strategic materials that are here not only just in Europe but potentially around the world, where we might need to sort of start securing those, you know, important strategic supplies from, making sure that we've got those supply lines. You know, we have to work together on this. You know, the UK is part of Europe, and Europe's security includes us all. It does not make any sense for, as I have seen in another video, to go, yeah, we're not going to talk to you on that. I'm sorry, are we part of Europe as well? Yes, we are. Europe's defense matters, especially given the fact that a lot of undersea cabling is in the Atlantic, which we know specifically is going to be targeted by, by Russia. I think the Royal Navy is going to play an important part in the defense of Europe, as well as other, navies as well. So you cannot just say ignore the UK in this. We absolutely have to work together towards, rearmament. We have to be there. We have to go really in that direction. And if Trump wins, then we are really going to have to step up. I mean, really have to step up for Ukraine. Otherwise, who knows what could happen, especially given the fact that, let's give the scenario, because this is the worrying one. Trump wins, says, hey, Putin, I'm not going to give any more weapons or aid to Ukraine until, I don't know, peace talks, something happen. Zelensky goes, no, because Russia's sort of peace talks and things that they want are completely, absolutely pie in the sky thinking. It would basically mean capitulating completely to Russia. The Ukrainian government would be gone overnight. There would be a Russian puppet government installed. There would probably be Russian military bases throughout the Ukraine, probably get built. There would be an incredibly brutal occupation of Ukraine as well. Just so many things. And then after that, remember, Russia would finish this war with a very, very large army. There is nothing to say that Putin would not use this army, potentially going into Georgia. Also, probably going into Moldova to install the Transnistrian government as the main government of Moldova. And then we've got the potential to worry about what if Putin decides to test NATO? Because we know what Donald Trump has said about NATO in the past. What if Putin, with that military, decides to go and take a border town that's like right on the border? Not anything else, not like a full-scale invasion, just goes and takes that and goes, okay, what are you going to do, NATO? This is why at the moment where you've had Biden and the current administration in America go, we will defend every inch of NATO territory, has stopped this from happening. What happens then? If Donald Trump goes, no, you can have that. Is I don't know, Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia, where it probably might happen, just to say, oh, thanks Donald for handing over that town. That completely undermines NATO. And then you've got further problems, because what then happens if this emboldens North Korea, who have also been ramping up their rhetoric, saying that only a united Korea can only be achieved through conquest. That's something we'd have to worry about. Not only that, but China as well. Recently, China has deployed a large number of sort of small patrol craft vessels to go after Filipino fishermen who, bear in mind, are on an island that is far closer to the Philippines than it is to China. In claiming those important strategic waterways, that might mean then that they can choke Taiwan off. And that there could very well be, at that point, maybe even an invasion of Taiwan. What does Trump do about that? Does Trump go, no, that's Chinese territory? What do you then say to all those Taiwanese who have really lived under an actual proper democracy, who will see that disappear overnight? Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of trouble spots in the world. There really are. But how do we solve this? It's the solution that we on the left have always argued for, that countries should come together to create collective solutions in how we solve these problems. And that has always been my stance. That has always been what I've said when it has come to any of these sort of situations. And hey, we'll see what happens. But you know, Donald Trump winning is not 100%. It's not 100% guarantee. It's not 50%. I think it's probably around 30%. But that, even to me, is still too goddamn high. And I do worry. I do worry. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that is going against Trump and the Republicans. Namely, of course, some key battleground states. The Republican parties in those states are completely bankrupt. So that is absolutely going to play against Trump in the elections, and especially, as we said, in those key battleground states. So there is still a big chance, but does worry me. Does worry me. The fact that it's not zero, you know, worries me. I think it's probably around 30%. And even then, 30% is still too high, because if Trump wins, a lot of other stuff could then kick off. Because Trump is an absolute idiot and an isolationist, and he is not going to use, you know, American power, to sort of, you know, use the phrase, to make sure that these things don't kick off. The original Korean War, bear in mind, started because at the time, the then Secretary of Defense did not mention Korea in a speech. Remember that. But hey, we've probably got a new government in today. So those talks that I've been talking about are probably going to happen. And we are probably going to see a lot of progress in things like that over the next sort of maybe 2 or 3 years. It's not going to happen immediately, but I think the defense, that is probably, I think, could be the first thing we see happen. So we'll see what happens, but as always, we'll see you all very soon. And again, probably under a new government. So probably in the next video, maybe you know, I'll do a stream this morning or whatever. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But again, hopefully we've got a new government. Hopefully it has been a very big win and a very, very bad night for the Tories. So as always, until then, we'll see you all very soon.